After months of waiting, we finally have the official reveal of all 8 brand new uniforms for the 2026 UFL season. Howdy, my name is Logan with Alt Football Archive, and today we'll be breaking down and ranking every new UFL uniform from worst to first. All 8 teams have brand new uniforms, some are refreshes and others are full-on redesigns. An important thing to note is that New Era is the new exclusive jersey provider for the league this year. This is going to be a big change from Under Armour, who had been the supplier for the previous 2 seasons of the UFL and for the XFL in 2023. Unfortunately, this is likely the reason why we've seen certain changes to the uniforms. And also, before we get into this, a big thing to remember is that perceptions for new uniforms are usually at their worst when they're first revealed. Once we see our favorite players wearing them on the field, we usually grow to like them just a little bit more, so be sure to keep that in mind. If there's a jersey that you don't like right off the bat, it might grow on you as time goes on. Getting into the list proper, we have at number 8, the Birmingham Stallions. Unfortunately for Stallions faithful, it seems like Mike Rapoli's leak of the uniforms was actually real. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this crimson cream look, but let's start breaking it down. Starting with the helmet, we have a crimson shelled helmet with an aggressive gold center stripe that tapers out down the middle of the helmet. And on the sides of the helmet, there are big Stallions logos. Looking at the home jersey, it's a solid tan color with crimson numbers in an angular font that feature white outlines with Stallions written across the chest in red. There's a red and white angular design on the shoulders, which start pointed in the front and become thicker the further back you go on the shoulder. I like to think of this as maybe a mane for a horse since they're the Stallions. It's a very sharp, interesting look. The home pants are also a tan. They have a similar red and white stripe down the side of the leg. Moving on to the away uniform, it flips the colors mostly. It's primarily white with crimson numbers with tan outlines and a Birmingham written across the chest. The side accents are the same, but with crimson and tan colors, so you'll see these on the shoulders and on the sides of the leg. An important thing to talk about though, as we show off these uniforms, is that all jerseys will now have a UFL logo worked into the color. It's kind of like what we see with NFL jerseys, as well as having the league's clothing sponsors shown in big patches. On one side you have New Era, which is the maker of the uniform, and on the other side you have No Bull, which is Mike Rapoli's personal brand. I've seen people discuss online that they think that the No Bull patch is way too big. I mean, it is pretty big, but whenever I look at these, I skim over it mostly, so I'm kind of looking at it like how the US Army had a patch when they sponsored the UFL in 2024. Overall, looking at these uniforms, they really do remind me of those Oklahoma Sooners alternate jerseys, but not in a good way. It seems this year the league-wide style is for the helmets just to not match the jerseys at all. I think that this look would be way stronger if they had a crimson jersey to match the crimson helmet that we've seen. Twitter user Top Tier Tulane did a great mock-up showing this off, and I'll have the post linked in the description, so if you like this look, be sure to like his post. I just think it's way better. It kind of fits more of that aggressive style and matches more of what we've seen in the past with the Birmingham Stallions. I think overall this is a downgrade from their classic style seen before, and it's important to note that all uniforms being shown off, they're being seen as monochrome where the jerseys and the pants match. The teams are allowed to mix and match pants and jerseys, so this will allow a little bit more customization for the teams as they go through the season. I think for these uniforms, if they wear the white pants with these jerseys, I think they'll look a little bit better since it's not just tan all the way across. It'll kind of balance it out a bit more. With that said, I think the away uniform is the better looking one. I think it's more true to the Stallions colors, and it kind of just doesn't strike me as being super like neutral colored or like that tan. So far, it seems like they've been super disliked online to the point that fans have created a conspiracy theory surrounding them. So ever since Mike Rapoli came into the ownership group, he's kind of had an antagonistic relationship with the city of Birmingham seemingly. Online, he's challenged Birmingham fans to purchase a certain number of season tickets, otherwise their team would get relocated, and he seemingly advocated for the team to be moved to a mixed sport baseball field instead of where they've traditionally played at Protective Stadium. The conspiracy goes, of course, is that the league purposely designed these uniforms to be so ugly that the team would lose fans and the league can just relocate them to another market. I think obviously this isn't true. The league absolutely wants all these teams to do as well as they can in their markets, and if they wanted to move a team, they probably would just anyways. But I do think it's kind of funny that this narrative was made just based off of the response from these. These are definitely my least favorite uniforms, so they will be last, but I do hope we see the league move back to a crimson colored look, kind of like what we saw last year given the initial response that these have gotten. We saw this happen before in the USFL where the Pittsburgh Maulers went from being purple and orange to a more true Pittsburgh black and gold, so this kind of thing can happen, and I think it's something that would just improve the look of these overall. I would still like if they could keep these as an alternate jersey. I know, like, logistics and money isn't going to be there to do this for every single team, but it's not my favorite look, but I do think it would work better as an alternate and not their primary. Moving on to number 7 is the Orlando Storm. Orlando is the first of the new teams we get a look at, and to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed by what we see. I was expecting something a little bit more bold since their colors are orange and purple. Starting with the helmet, it's that matte black shell that we've seen before with the Orlando Storm logos on either side. Unfortunately here, there's no center stripe or extra design to really give it a little bit more detail. The home jersey is a solid black, with an orange font on the numbers and sharp cutouts, bordered by purple and with an orange storm written across the chest. A fun detail I saw here is that the O in Storm is the spiral from their logo. It's a small little touch, but I think it's really cool. On the sleeves, you have the outer spiral of their Storm logo with orange points and a purple spiral. On the pants, you have a sharp orange stripe and a smaller purple strip. The away jersey is pretty much just a color swap using a white jersey with purple numbers this time, with an orange border and an interesting thin black inner border along the numbers. And what looks to be a black or purple Orlando with, like with the previous one, the O being the same Storm spiral design. The sleeves have also been color swapped, where now the spiral is an orange and the points are purple. We can't really see it in the promo video to my knowledge, but I do believe that the pant stripe is also going to be color flipped as well, so I'm assuming that those will have a big purple stripe and a smaller orange one. Overall, I just feel like that these have missed the mark just a little bit. Whenever we saw the helmets, I hope that we wouldn't just get a black jersey since their colors are so bold. You know, purple and orange, you can do a lot with it. And, you know, I was hoping it wasn't going to be a 2022 Maulers look since that was a little bit more basic than I would like. But I was just wanting it to be a little bit more unique, even if instead of black, they went with more of a dark purple. It's also hard to really see the purple elements on the home jersey since they're so dark, where at first when I looked at these, I thought they were only orange and black with no purple except for on the logo. Like with the Stallions, I feel like the away uniform is just a lot better. With the away uniform with the white, you can much more clearly see the unique colors, like the orange and the purple, where they just really stand out way better. I do like the little touches that we see, like with changing the colors so much with the numbers and the Storm spirals on the side, and the Orlando and Storm featuring that. So I definitely know that the design team has put a lot of attention in the small little details, and isn't just changing the base color of these looks. I think overall, these could use a little bit more attention to make them more unique and feel a little bit less like first draft. This definitely isn't the worst jersey. I think it's fine by all means, but it's just a bit disappointing. I'm always going to be comparing them to the Orlando Apollos, which had very similar colors, and I feel like those did a much better job showing off their colors by featuring them more in that really awesome helmet, and even showing them off on the jersey with an orange collar and bits on the sleeves. This is something that I would love to see the league return to and look at, and maybe, I don't really want to keep saying alternatives, but this would be a fun blackout design, but then maybe have a purple and orange primary. Moving on to number 6, we have the Dallas Renegades. I feel a little bit misled after being shown that amazing all-black helmet that we saw before, but I do think it's a solid look even if we're not going for that all-black style. Starting with the helmet, this is, I think, just one of the best helmets that we see for the entire league for this new batch. It's a really nice, glossy black shell. It's got 3 stripes running down the middle of the helmet, 2 are light blue with a center red stripe. There, of course, is the classic Renegades bandit outlined in the baby blue on either side. And it's just really awesome to see. It's definitely a huge upgrade and really just makes it stand out compared to all the other helmets. The home jersey is a light blue all the way across with simple red numbers outlined by black in sort of a wiry font with Renegades written in black across the chest. Gone are the backpack straps from last season. Now the shoulders feature 2 bold bars separated by a thin red stripe. This reminds me of the design that we saw in the 2020 uniform, so it's a great touch. On the pants, you have more of that cool light blue with a solid band of black and red wires like we see on the numbers running down the leg. This stripe, which I think took me a little bit too long to notice, is basically identical to the stripe that we saw on the 2020 Renegades helmet, so that's awesome to see. I really hope that's intentional. It's an amazing reference to the 2020 design, and it just makes me like it a little bit more. Moving on to the away uniform, we see a color swap with some neat little touches to keep the blue involved, like how the numbers now have an extra blue border with a black Dallas run across the chest. It also very smartly features a black collar to keep them from being a little bit too white, and there's also an extra blue outline present on the shoulders and on the pant stripes. Overall, I do think that this look is very solid. It's definitely a more refined version of their previous uniform. I still think it should be a little bit more black on the home jersey, but I think that's a personal preference, especially with how amazing the helmet looks. I just wish it continued on into the rest of the uniform. I love what seems to be references to their 2020 designs, and I think the more I see these, the more I like them. So I definitely think once I'm over my all black expectations, I think they'll be very, very solid in my mind. Moving on to number 5, we have the Louisville Kings. This is the last of the uniforms to be shown off across the entire league. It's certainly a solid look overall for such a promising new team. Starting, of course, with the helmets, we got a forest green shell like we saw before, with the Louisville Kings helmet on either side. And like the Storm helmet, there's no center stripe or design, so it's really just that forest green doing all the talking. The home jersey is a deep forest green with bright green numbers, almost neon green in a way, with a matching forest green border around them. On the sleeves, this is really interesting. There's a repeating bright green diamond pattern on both sides of a gray fleur-de-lis. The diamond pattern seems to come from a matching set in the crown of the team's logo. Doing some research into this, I've seen that this kind of design was used a lot in like royal heraldry, and I think it can also be found on various like jockey uniforms that I've seen in the Kentucky Derby. So I think that this is neat. I really hope that it's connected to that jockey stuff, because that's cool for the Kentucky Derby since it's so connected with Louisville as a city. And of course, I think more obviously, the fleur-de-lis is a fun touch. The fleur-de-lis is a symbol of French royalty, and it's fitting since Louisville was named after French monarch King Louis XVI in honor of France helping the US in the Revolutionary War. So this kind of little detail really does speak to the identity of the city, and I think it's very cool. Of course, moving back to the home jersey, there appears to be a banner of that diamond pattern moving down the length of the leg, which I think is a cool continuation, and I do think it really matches with that kind of jockey silks that we'd seen. The away jersey is strangely all gray. It's very similar to what the Battlehawks had as their away uniform from last season, with the same colored numbers and patterns on the shoulders and legs, so there's not too much to talk about. Unfortunately, the away uniform knocks this set down a couple of points since it just doesn't show as much attention as the others, and it seems to mainly just be the jersey in a different color. I would have liked to see more green aspects, like maybe around the collar or something like that, but as it is, it's still pretty solid. Overall, I think I do really like this uniform, especially after doing some research into what those little details could mean, and as they relate to the city of Louisville. I'm glad that they could put a little bit of a subtle look for this jersey, since the greens, I think, are bold enough to do all the main talking, to be the main focus. I still feel like a little extra could have been done to make these just a little bit more special, especially for the away uniform, since it just seems a little bit attention lacking, but I think this is a very solid look. This, of course, will always still remind me of the Orlando Guardians of the XFL in 2023, but I think these are way better designed, and they seem to speak way more to the city of Louisville and be tailored to them than the Guardians were for Orlando, especially since they were moved from New York. Coming in at number 4 on my list is the St. Louis Battlehawks. I'm really glad to see that these are mostly the same, especially when compared to last season, look a little bit more refined. Starting with the helmet, it is, of course, as I'm going to say multiple times, is very similar to what we've seen last year. Interestingly, of course, is that the shell is a little bit darker, and it has a solid silver line running back along the middle instead of what appeared to be more of like an angled arch from last season. There are still blue wings on the side of the helmet, but interestingly too is they're a little bit more squished and smaller, sitting just at eye level instead of sitting at the full length down the face guard. Moving on to the home jersey, we see a solid Battlehawks blue with gray outlined military style numbers and a white Battlehawks run across the chest. The sleeves, I think, are a very neat change. Instead of having a solid bar going across, which just kind of emulates the St. Louis arch, it is now much more easy to recognize as the famous arch with the two-tone gray and white look, just really making it stand out and being very obvious what it's trying to be. And of course, in the middle of the sleeve, you have that primary logo in the middle of the arch. The home pants are a matching blue with white stripes between two smaller gray stripes running down the leg, and they seem to come to a point at the knee. This is a little bit different than it was last season. It was just a solid gray band running down the leg, kind of like what we saw on the shoulders. The St. Louis Battlehawks away uniform keeps that gray color that they've had for the past couple seasons, and it is very similar to what we've seen with the Kings away jersey. The colors here appear to be swapped in certain places, which I do think is an improvement. It is a light gray jersey with a blue STL ran across the chest, standing for St. Louis. The numbers are now blue with a white outline that I think it really just helps them pop a lot more. And the side detailing is color swapped too, so the arch now is blue and white, and the stripes down the legs are now a blue stripe between two white stripes. Overall, I'm very glad that these have stayed mostly the same, as the last design I think is just one of the best designs that we have in spring football right now. I know some fans really want them to go back to the 2020 helmets, but personally I'm kind of more of a fan of the silver, but it would be cool to see them move back if that's what St. Louis fans really want. I do think it's interesting to see that the helmets seem to have gotten the most change, and it's the only part that I think wasn't a clear improvement in the refinement. The squished feathers I just don't think look as powerful as the full wing that we saw before, and I worry that the darker colored helmet will make them stand out a little bit too much from the away jersey's color, which I feel like is kind of the whole reason why it's silver in the first place. I do love that the arch is a lot more noticeable, and with all of these, I do think overall it is an improvement over last season. It's easily, I think, top 4 best looking uniforms in the UFL this season. Coming in at number 3 is the Columbus Aviators. This is one of my most anticipated uniforms for the new teams, and man does it do a great job. Starting with the helmet, I think this is going to be one of my favorite helmets, and especially it's the same as the one they showed off before. It's got a baby blue shell with an almost car paint metallic flake look. I think that's really cool. It's a really nice look. I don't really know the right way to describe it, but it is an awesome look. I think this will really pop in person when you see it at games. It has a solid navy blue band running down the middle of the helmet that is bordered by red and white stripes. And of course, on either side of the helmet is that new Aviators logo. But I still personally think that it should be mirrored so that the way the wings kind of fit with the direction that the player is facing. But it's important to note that on the logo, that ring that goes around the A in the propeller forms a C, which is for the city of Columbus. I had some viewers point it out, and I think it is a really cool detail that I don't know how I missed before. Personally, I still think I want it mirrored, but I think if Columbus is being prioritized as an identity for this team, I really can't knock them for it. The home jersey for the Aviators is a navy blue, with baby blue numbering, with a navy blue border, and really cool red drop shadows on the numbers. That's a really neat effect. And of course, over it, you have the baby blue Aviators written on the chest. The home jersey also features a red collar along with red and baby blue stripes on the sleeves that seem to round out as they move forward, mirroring the wings seen on their logo. The pants are a matching set of navy blue, and they feature baby blue stripes between 2 red stripes running down the leg. The away jersey swaps out some colors with an all-white jersey that doesn't feature any differently colored collar this time. It has navy blue lettering outlined in white with the same red drop shadow seen. It features the same wing style using the same colors as it does on the home jersey, which is the same to say as the leg stripes that we see, just this time on white pants. Overall, you can tell that this design team had an amazing time designing these uniforms. All the pieces seem to come together really well for such a fun and colorful jersey. At first, I felt a little bit misled, kind of with Dallas, that the uniforms weren't mostly baby blue with navy accent, just based off of the color composition of the helmets. But after seeing them and getting used to them a little bit more, it's really growing on me. It's definitely my favorite of the new teams that have been shown off, and it's such a great looking uniform overall. I really expect it'll grow on me a lot as we move in closer to the season. Anyways, moving on to number 2, we have the DC Defenders. Defenders have a returning tried and true design, just a little bit missing for the sake of simplicity, unfortunately. Starting with the helmet, we have a white shelled helmet with 2 red lines running down the middle. And of course, we have that DC Defenders logo from last season on either side. Sadly, there is no marble or camo design featured on this helmet. It might have been a casualty of trying to refine the look down like what we've seen with a couple of the other jerseys. But this missing element could also be a casualty of moving from Under Armour to New Era. Moving on from the helmet to the jersey, the home jersey is that same bold red with white numbers that we've seen before, this time featuring a cool multicolored, almost beveled look with a white and red border around them. It kind of makes them look almost 3D, and of course you have Defenders written in white across the chest. The aspect I'm personally most happy to see is that the sleeves keep that awesome DC Defenders flag design that we've seen in their previous look, with the white stars and the white bars, making the iconic flag. The home pants are a matching red with 2 white stripes running down the side. The away jersey is white with red numbers, this time outlined in just a solid white, not beveled, and a simple DC written in red across the chest. To discuss this a little bit, I think personally DC is just a little bit too small to look right. It's kind of like what we saw with the STL and the Battlehawks. Sorry, I know that defenders hate the Battlehawks, so I'll try not to talk about it too much. For these, I think something like District might have looked better since it's longer. I'm not from DC though, so if you're a DC fan, let me know what you'd think if you want to have a longer word, or if DC works fine for you for these. Moving on for the away uniforms, the sleeves do feature a more authentic or more accurate DC flag, which features red stars and red lines this time, just being a color swap from the home jersey. The away pants are white, which I think is actually surprisingly the first time they've had white pants since 2020, I believe, featuring 2 red stripes running down the side of the leg. Overall, as I said in my video before ranking the uniforms from last season, that I think the Defenders uniform is basically near perfect and that very little should be changed if possible. And I'm very glad that it seems like for the most part they may have listened. I still wish they kept the camo elements like on the helmet or on the mantle. I think it added a little bit of depth, but on the other hand, you know, there could have been totally changed like we see with the Stallions, so I guess it's kind of like a count your blessings kind of thing. Hopefully they can add it back in the future since it's just an element on the helmet, but I do think maybe adding an element for the helmet would be easier to do between seasons than changing a full uniform like with colors. Still, I think even with that missing element, this is easily one of the best looks in the league, and it still stays strong even missing that element. But the DC Defenders still keep one of the best looking uniforms in the league, even after being simplified just a little bit too much. And to round out our list, coming in at number 1 is the Houston Gamblers. Houston receives a massive glow up going from their simplistic look way back in 2022. Now, I know what you're thinking, that since I'm a Houston fan, of course I'm going to be biased towards the Gamblers. I'm going to put them first, but I will tell you that I am first and foremost a Roughnecks fan, and if it was still up to me, I would totally have them change back in a heartbeat. So if anything, I'd have every single reason to be biased and root against these uniforms, but you know, I'm sorry, they're just too good to hate. Starting with the helmet, I mean, this is just a better look at that black shelled helmet. We don't have that red kind of like lighting that we saw in the reveal video, but we see a big red stripe running down the middle of the helmet between two thin yellow stripes. And of course on the sides, you have that newly designed Gamblers logo on either side of the helmet. Now, I do kind of miss that retro USFL logo, and I think it would be fun to bring back as a throwback, but I do think that this new logo does fit the vibe that they're going for this new jersey design. Speaking of jersey design, the home jersey is all black with black numbers outlined in a layer of red and yellow, and a red Gamblers written across the chest. The sleeves here are simple, and it features what looks to be a really cool secondary logo with a red, black, and gold poker chip with a gold H in the middle, standing for Houston. It's a cool detail, I think, is that the H, the little cutouts that make the H are spades, which kind of fits that kind of poker gambling style. The home pants are a solid black to match with an awesome side striping of black with a repeating gray spades pattern running down the leg outlined in red and yellow. This is an awesome detail. I really love these, and it reminds me of how last season the Roughnecks had a really cool oil splatter gradient down the leg. I like this kind of little details, and I'm really glad that they featured this for the Gamblers. Moving on to the away jersey, it's white with a lot of the same aspects that we saw in the home jersey. We still see the same black numbers from the home jersey along with their outlines of red and yellow, and it now features a red Houston written across the chest. The sleeves keep their same poker chip logo from before without any color changes, and the same goes for the side striping on the white pants. Overall, I think these have to be the coolest looking jerseys in the whole league at the time of this recording. There's so many cool designs, and I think it really just makes this look awesome, even for someone who didn't really want to like this look. I think this does require the team to play well for this to look good. I think if the team comes out and plays poorly, these will just look a little bit goofy with just so much going on. I do love the details that's won me over. It's still funny to have the Gamblers playing in a city where gambling is illegal, but you know, if you're going to be the Gamblers, I respect them just going all in on it and just pretending that Houston is Las Vegas for the sake of these, because I do think a lot of the poker aspects and gambling and like the card suits that they have all over, I think it's just really cool. And I would love to get that secondary logo like poker chip on a hat. I just think it would look awesome. I think the home jersey could be a little bit improved with maybe like red or white numbers to make them stand out more. The black on black might be a little bit hard to read at a distance. And of course too, I do worry about the Gamblers playing in a city where it can get to over 100 degrees at games towards the end of the season. I feel like that all black uniform is going to make it super hot for the Gamblers players, and it might be a little bit of a disadvantage if we're playing at home. The same sentiment goes for the Orlando Storm. I'd hate to be playing in the Florida Heat in all black. Ooh, my goodness. Hopefully they can work out something where the Storm and the Gamblers might be able to wear their away uniforms at home just to make things a little bit nicer for the players. So those were all 8 new uniforms for the upcoming UFL season. Which of them was your favorite? Tell me your ranking in the comments, as well as if you think my ranking is spot on or just completely off. I'd love to see what y'all think about these. Personally, I cannot wait for the season to start on March 27th to see all of these uniforms on the field. And if you're like me and just can't wait that long, I've got good news for you. Beer Snake Defender has done a really good job recreating all these uniforms in the college football team builder. So shout out to him for his hard work, and I'll have his post linked in the description so you can look at some of the stuff he's done. It's really amazing work. And if you want to play it, you can download these through Team Builder under the username TeamBuilderGuy1. I'll have it on screen here, and of course you can find it in the post I have linked in the description. Looking back on these uniforms, I do think it's interesting that the league showcased these by staggering them over the course of 4 days, as it really gave the community a lot of time to discuss and digest these uniforms as they came out. So thank you for being patient for my full breakdown. I know it's not going to be the first video you see, but hopefully you'll get a little bit more out of it. Speaking of getting more out of videos, I do have some future videos in production going over topics like the best fan bases in the UFL, as well as a refresher on the history of spring football. So if you're interested in those videos or anything UFL, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I think it's amazing we've almost hit my personal goal of 1,000 subscribers before the season kicks off. So the support I've gotten the past few months has just been mind-blowing. So if you're subscribed as a member of the archive, I do want to give you a very personal thank you. And if you're new, welcome. It's one of the best times to join before the season and all the spring football fun kicks off. So be sure to join because the best is still in store. If you found this video interesting, or if I pointed out a detail you didn't see, be sure to drop a like on the video. And as always, thank you for watching.